It seemed like no matter what she did, nothing ever worked. No matter how many times she left him, he'd always cycle back into her life, even if she blocked him, even if she went no contact, even if she was at a place where there was no access, he'd still find a way to be able to weasel his way into her life. It seemed like every time that she left, there was something just drawing her back, whether that was from her own self or whether that was from just allowing him in. No matter what she did, she felt like there was nothing she could do to actually keep herself safe from not being sucked back into the toxic relationship. This story and many others are countless inside of what we deal with here at Raw Motivations of women that have been trapped in toxic relationships and are unsure how to get out and how to actually be free. Do you ever struggle with this piece of how do you actually be free from a narcissist permanently? How do you actually protect yourself from not going back? How do you protect yourself from him not coming back into your life? This piece of no contact, this piece of trying to figure out how do you break trauma bonds, all of this is made up inside of dealing with a narcissist. And when this is happening, oftentimes people lose themselves and lose the idea of what needs to happen, lose the direction that you're actually trying to go, and don't understand how to protect yourself from a narcissist. When we're talking about this piece of healing and we're talking about protecting, one of the pieces that you have to know and you have to see early on is the awareness piece. This is why a lot of my content is geared around trying to bring awareness of what he's doing, what's going on, what he's thinking, because the more you can see it, the more you can start identifying on a day-to-day basis to start liberating your own mindset, your thought process, and ultimately help you be free. But when it comes down to a piece of protecting, what does that actually look like? One of the popular ways that people view as starting to protect themselves from a narcissist is going no contact. And while that is helpful and great, it also does not heal you. It does not fix all of the problems. If anything, it's a buffer so that you can be able to have time and space to heal you, but it's also like a Band-Aid that unless we do the work underneath to actually heal the root core and the problems that are happening, deep-seated trauma, it doesn't really help long-term. It's just a temporary fix. When we talk through pieces of protecting inside the relationship, of how do you protect yourself when you're with him, many times people will talk about gray rocking. We're going to pause on this just for a moment. Gray rocking, if you don't know what it is this idea and this object of when someone's talking, responding, yelling, reacting at you, you're responding very uninterested to them, aka acting like a rock. Okay, and so a gray rock is where you're giving smaller responses, shorter answers, not even in a negative or an abusive way, but in a way that just is trying to reduce anything from the other person. These could be very small, like, I know, right? Okay, yes, I get it. These could be super, super small, and at times can be extremely frustrating for the narcissist. Now, when people are doing these, this has often been touted as one of the best ways to protect yourself inside of a conversation. Just gray rock. Just kind of shut down so that he doesn't get his supply from you. And then as a result, he'll either leave, he'll stop bothering you. And while that would be amazing if it happened all the time, typically we only see that happen around maybe 50%. And the reason why is because sometimes when you are gray rocking and acting uninterested to him and acting in small, shorter answers, short phrases, short sentences that are not bringing emotion into it, that are just giving these small responses, the narcissist sometimes will get super pissed off and frustrated because he's not getting the reaction that he's looking to get from you. When we talk through the piece of reaction, narcissist is typically looking at a type of reaction as a form of supply. Something that he's trying to do to you to be able to get a reaction or response that shows him that he's still in power and he's still in control over you. So when he's doing this, just know this is all just a tactic to make sure that he's in control over you. Now, when he's doing this and you're giving him gray rock, you have a 50-50 chance that he's going to leave you alone or that he's going to rage out and become more intense and get in your face more, maybe even leaning to the physical abuse. This you have to be able to evaluate per your situation and per the guy that you're with. If you've already seen times where you've tried this, or you've already seen the tendencies that he has to get to a place where he's going to yell and scream and get in your face and even physically harm you, then we need to be careful about this piece of gray rocking. Gray rocking can be very, very dangerous if it is not done in a good way or a correct way, but also it can be very dangerous because it's going to piss him off. So we need to be really careful about that. Now, you might be thinking, what's the alternative then? Everybody only talks about gray rocking or yellow rocking, or, there's a lot of different pieces that people throw out there. Okay, one of the things I want to recommend if you're having to deal with him and you're having to have communication back and forth with him, maybe this is with the kids, maybe you're currently just in the situation, you haven't been able to get out, you're trying to build up your confidence to leave or figure out what's actually going on. What I would recommend in communication would be using the B.I.F.F method. This method is very popular inside of high conflict divorce, high conflict situations. The B.I.F.F method is a framework. It is an idea and a thought process to be able to walk people through in your response and in your communication with a toxic person. When you're using the B.I.F.F method, the goal inside of this is to make it seem in a way that it is not gray rocking, but is kind of an elevated form of that. The reason why I say this is I want you to picture and just imagine for a moment that a judge gets your text communication with him and with you back and forth, and you've been practicing gray rocking. If you've been practicing gray rocking and a person looks from the outside with no context, no idea about the situation, and no validation of narcissism, oftentimes they will look at you as being the abusive one. Simply because you're not responding, you're not engaging, you're not communicating, all of these things will line up and it will look bad against you. So when a person's using the B.I.F.F method, a lot of times it looks more favorable because you're still interacting in a way that looks and appears cordial, but is also keeping boundaries. All right, so what is the B.I.F.F method? When we break down the B.I.F.F method, it comes down to 4 things, which is brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So brief means you're just keeping it short. Keep it nice and neat. It doesn't have to be a long sentence, a long run-on paragraph. It's not a giant email that you send. Don't bother. Don't waste your time. Keep it brief with a toxic person. He does not care about what you have to say. He's only trying to do things to trigger you, and you will either get triggered by shutting down and not responding at all, or by blowing up. So we need to keep this brief. Short and sweet, make sure it gets to the point, communicates what you need it to communicate, and get off. Don't continue to have a giant dialogue. We're just looking at having short communications that are brief. Now, the second piece in it is called informative. Informative is where we're diving in with the facts. Think of it for a moment. He's trying to trigger and poke you, not because he's factually true, but because he's projecting and putting and placing things on you, lies, stories, beliefs, and ideas on you to get you to react, to get you to respond. He's been telling you for the longest period of time that you're a bad mom, that no one's going to want you, that you have no worth and value. He's telling you all these things through different ways of communicating, belittling, and putting you down. And although those things are not factual, they do have feelings with them. And when they have feelings with them, there's more triggers, there's more reactions, there's more responses from you. So he's going to try to do different things in communication to trigger you. If this is going on, which with the narcissist it typically is, then we want to bring you back to what are just the facts of the situation, and let's communicate in an informative way. This is you being the lawyer in the situation. This is you just standing in the courtroom and just communicating your facts, not your feelings, not your opinions, not your beliefs, not your perspective, but just small, simple facts. We combine this with the brief, and then we haven't moved into a place of a giant dialogue indicating your emotions and feelings and everything else that's holding you back, but simply just said, hey, here it is, short and sweet, here's the facts. Now, brief, informative, friendly. Friendly is the third one. You're like, I don't really want to have a friendly conversation with my narcissist. Well, we're not trying to have a long-term friendly conversation. You're just trying to have one text that actually fits this model. Brief, informative, and friendly. Friendly, I want you to think if you were constructing this text to a coworker, to an acquaintance, to someone that you knew. You're not going to put it in a mean, aggressive way. You're not going to put it in a disconnected way. You're going to have it at a baseline friendly. That's what you kind of have to think of. Don't think about him. Think of it just, hey, I'm just communicating with someone, with another human being on the planet, and I'm going to treat them like a human, okay? So that it doesn't appear aggressive or abusive inside the court system or inside of what you're communicating to him. And the fourth thing inside of here is firm. Firm means you're sticking to your boundaries. You're not budging. You're not moving. You're just literally saying, this is what I believe. This is what we said. This is what we agreed on. This is what I'm sticking to. This could even be used inside of the copy paste method. You have a custody agreement. You have dates and times you already agreed on. You take a screenshot of that and you post it back to him every time he tries to deviate out of that model and that mold. So you have to stay firm, or he's always going to cross your boundaries, and he's always going to try to cross your boundaries unless you stay firm forever. Brief, informative, friendly, and firm. So this comes down to some of the communication style, how gray rocking doesn't always work, how it's beneficial to move into the B.I.F.F method and to use this inside of high conflict, which a lot of times we have this inside of dealing with a narcissist. Hopefully this has helped today. If you want to hear more videos about some of these topics, leave a comment down below so I know what's going to help and what's going to help you move forward. And if you haven't already, like, rate, or review any of the things that you're listening here, share this with a friend, because you never know. What you share here to someone else might be the liberation that they've actually been seeking for. Y'all have a blessed and wonderful day. We'll see y'all next week.